What if your family's darkest secret called you at midnight? Midnight Caller is a gripping horror story that unravels over 10 terrifying chapters. Follow Evelyn Harrow as she receives a mysterious phone call from a long-forgotten number. One that exposes a deadly family pact, a drowned memory, and a voice that never stops calling. If you love haunted houses, creepy phone calls, ghost children, and twisted psychological horror, this is for you. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare for the silence after the call. Subscribe for more horror storytelling, ghost stories, and creepy narrations. Chapter 1: The First Ring. The digital clock on Evelyn Harrow's nightstand flickered to 12 a.m. in bold red digits. Outside, a storm whispered through the trees, rustling dead leaves like skeletal hands dragging across the ground. Thunder murmured low in the distance, threatening to rise. Inside, the air was unnaturally still, like the breath of the old house had been stolen away by something waiting in the dark. Evelyn stirred beneath her duvet. Her dreams shadowed and incomplete. Her mind clung to fractured images, a face half submerged in water, an old rotary phone ringing endlessly in a hallway of peeling wallpaper. The images began to fade, slipping through her fingers like fog. Then it came. Ring. She sat up, heart jerking in her chest. The sound was sharp, unnatural in its clarity. It wasn't her cell. It wasn't the alarm. It was the old landline phone, one that hadn't rung in over a year, maybe longer. Ring. A second ring, identical to the first. Cold. The phone sat on the small table in the hallway, just outside her bedroom. An antique. Black rotary phone with a crack across the dial plate. Evelyn had kept it out of nostalgia. It once belonged to her grandmother, but it was unplugged, or so she thought. She slipped out of bed, her bare feet touching the cold hardwood floor. The storm outside let out a guttural rumble as if protesting her movement. Evelyn opened the door, the hinges creaking with a tired groan. Ring! The hallway was dark, save for the red glow of the thermostat light. Shadows danced along the wallpaper, curling into corners where the light couldn't reach. The phone's shrill cry echoed off the walls. She approached it cautiously. Her breath was shallow, her hand trembling slightly as she reached for the receiver. Click! The ringing stopped the moment she touched it, though she hadn't picked up. Silence. Not the comforting kind, but the dense, pressurized kind, like the quiet inside a sealed tomb. Then the dial tone buzzed. She hesitated, then lifted the receiver. "Hello?" she whispered. Nothing. Just the hum of the line. Then a breath. Raspy, wheezing, as if someone were inhaling mold through a paper straw. Her stomach turned. "Who is this?" she asked, louder now. The breathing paused. Then, Evelyn. A man's voice. Low, gravelly. Familiar in the way that a childhood fear is familiar, half-remembered, but unforgettable. She froze. "How do you know my name?" Silence again. Then the line clicked off. She stood there, phone still pressed to her ear, heart racing. A flash of lightning illuminated the hallway, casting the twisted shadows of the banister onto the walls. A moment later, a crack of thunder exploded overhead. Boom! The sound shook the windows. Somewhere downstairs, A picture frame fell with a clatter. Evelyn dropped the receiver, and it swung on its cord, thudding gently against the table. She walked back to her room in a daze, but when she turned to close the door, her eye caught the hallway mirror. Her reflection was staring back, only she hadn't moved. Sleep did not come easily. When it finally did, it came in fits and starts, like a malfunctioning tape, playing half memories and distorted voices. In her dreams, the phone kept ringing. In her dreams, someone kept whispering her name from inside the walls. When Evelyn woke again, the sky outside was a washed-out gray. Rain smeared the windows, and the world outside looked like an old photograph, muted, blurry, wrong. She stumbled to the hallway. The phone was gone. The table was empty. She blinked, looked again. No sign of it. "What the hell?" she murmured, rubbing her temples. She walked the house, searching. Her footsteps felt loud. Tap, tap. Tap echoing off the old wooden floors. Every shadow seemed deeper than before. The kitchen was empty. So was the living room. Nothing but the dull hum of the refrigerator and the drip, drip, drip of the leaky faucet. Finally, she opened the closet in the guest room, and there it was, the phone, sitting on the floor in the back of the closet, as if it had always been there. She didn't remember moving it, didn't remember touching it. When she reached for it, the air grew colder. Suddenly from behind her, thud! She spun around. Nothing! But the air. It carried something now. A scent. Old paper. Mildew. And something metallic like rust or blood. Then she heard the voice again. Not from the phone, from the walls. "Evelyn, you shouldn't have answered." Her blood turned to ice. She backed out of the room slowly, heart hammering. A sharp knock sounded at the front door. Bang, bang, bang. She gasped, clutching the hallway wall to steady herself. The knock came again, harder this time, like fists pounding in panic or rage. She crept down the stairs. Each step a shriek of wood under her feet. The front door was shrouded in shadow, the stained glass window painted with the gray light of morning. She reached for the knob, hand trembling. "Don't open it." A voice, right behind her. She turned. No one. She was alone. She looked back at the door. A white envelope had been slipped beneath it. She crouched and picked it up. Her name was written on the front in looping black ink. Inside, a single sheet of yellowed paper. "You've heard the first ring. There will be 6. And scrawled at the bottom, "Do not tell anyone, or the next voice you hear will be your own." Screaming. Her fingers trembled. Her breath caught in her throat. In the quiet of the hallway, she could hear the pipes groaning inside the walls, like the house itself was waking up. And then, faintly, ring. From somewhere deep below the floorboards. Chapter 2. Unknown Number. The envelope stayed on the table all morning. Evelyn stared at it while nursing her coffee, but she couldn't bring herself to touch it again. The paper had smelled old, like it had been pulled from the pages of a forgotten book, yet the ink was fresh, too fresh, and the handwriting, elegant but jittery, felt like something etched in panic. "You've heard the first ring. There will be 6. What did that even mean? She reached for her cell phone, opened her recent calls. Nothing. No incoming call at midnight. No record of anything unusual. It was like the night had never happened. But it had. She remembered the voice, the crackle of the line, the chill in the hallway, and the phone, first in the hallway, then in the closet. She glanced at the closet door from across the room. It was closed now, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something behind it was listening. Tap, tap. Evelyn froze. The sound was soft, almost apologetic, like fingertips brushing glass. She turned slowly toward the window. Outside, the rain had stopped. The trees were still. But something had smudged the condensation on the glass. 5 long streaks, like fingers, dragged down the center of the pane. She stood up quickly, heart hammering. Her phone buzzed. She jumped, nearly dropping it. Unknown number. The words glared from the screen like a dare. She hesitated, then answered. Hello? A pause, then the same breathy static, and a whisper. You moved the phone. Evelyn's throat tightened. Who are you? Don't pretend you don't remember. I don't, she hissed, voice breaking. I don't know who you are. The line was silent. Then the voice returned, colder. They do. Click. The call ended. Evelyn stared at the screen. Her reflection ghosted faintly across the black glass. But something was wrong. Her eyes in the reflection weren't blinking. She looked up. The mirror above the mantel showed her, but her reflection stood completely still, mouth slightly open. She spun around. Nothing. Just the quiet and the distant ticking of the hallway clock. The day passed in a fog. She couldn't concentrate, couldn't eat. Her nerves were frayed, every noise amplified. When the mail slot creaked open around noon, she nearly screamed. This wasn't just fear. It was familiar, like déjà vu stretched to its breaking point. She needed answers. She climbed the attic stairs slowly, each step groaning under her weight. Her grandmother's old things were still up there, trunks of photos, letters, boxes Evelyn had never opened. The attic smelled like dust and time. The single bulb overhead flickered. She opened the first box. Photographs, mostly black and white, some curling at the corners. Family portraits, weddings, holidays, faces she barely recognized. Then a photo of her as a child, holding a telephone receiver. She didn't remember this. Her hand trembled as she picked it up. She was no older than 6, in a pale nightgown, eyes wide like she'd just been startled. Behind her in the photo stood her mother, but her expression was wrong. Not a smile. Not even a pose. Her mouth was twisted in a silent scream. Suddenly, the attic bulb popped. Crack. Darkness. Evelyn yelped, dropping the photo. The attic groaned. She scrambled for her phone, turned on the flashlight. In the beam, she caught a glimpse of something in the corner. A figure, just standing there, motionless, drenched in shadow. She backed away slowly. The phone buzzed again in her hand. Unknown number. She couldn't breathe. The attic was spinning. She answered it. A voice came immediately. Why did you forget? Forget what? She whispered. A burst of static, then, you promised not to. Screech! A horrible, shrill noise blared through the phone, like metal dragging against metal or fingernails on bone. She screamed, dropped the phone. The light rolled, spinning beams across the attic walls. When she looked back up, the corner was empty, no figure. But her phone screen still glowed. The call was still connected. She picked it up with shaking hands. The voice was softer now. Come back to the lake house. The line went dead. She hadn't thought about the lake house in years. It had belonged to her grandparents, a remote place deep in the woods, 2 hours north. After her mother's death, Evelyn had never gone back. Seen. She'd tried to forget, but now she couldn't shake the memories. Half images. Her mother pacing the dock at night, her screaming into the dark, her face pale and wet with tears. Something had happened there, something she had buried deep, and someone wanted her to remember. That night, she packed a small bag. It was irrational, maybe even dangerous, but the weight of the unknown was worse than the fear of the road ahead. She couldn't live with another night of mysterious calls and whispers in the walls. The drive was slow. Fog clung to the road like a veil. Her headlights barely cut through it. By the time she reached the gravel path leading to the lake house, her hands were white on the steering wheel. The cabin stood just as she remembered, weathered, quiet, surrounded by trees that loomed like silent sentinels. She parked and stepped out. The air was heavy, the night unnaturally quiet. No wind, no crickets, just the sound of the lake lapping faintly at the dock. She unlocked the door, the key trembling in her grip. Inside, the house smelled of old wood and faded memories. Furniture covered in sheets, dust motes swirling in the beam of her flashlight. She moved slowly, checking each room. Nothing. Then, upstairs, in the master bedroom, the old rotary phone sat on the nightstand. Just like before, just like she remembered. Her breath caught in her throat. She hadn't brought the phone. She hadn't told anyone she was coming. The phone rang. Ring! She screamed. Chapter 3. A Voice from the Past. The scream that burst from Evelyn's throat felt like it didn't belong to her. Sharp, primal, torn from somewhere deeper than her chest. Her legs buckled and she gripped the doorframe of the master bedroom to steady herself. The phone was still ringing. Ring. The sound echoed through the cabin like a fire alarm inside a crypt. It wasn't just loud, it was invasive, crawling through her ears and into her skull. Each shrill chime seemed to twist the air, pressing in against her lungs. Ring. Her hand hovered over the receiver. She didn't want to answer it. She shouldn't answer it. But her fingers moved anyway, like they belonged to someone else. She picked up the receiver. The ringing stopped. At first, nothing. Just a dead line, hissing with faint static. Then, a familiar voice. Evelyn! The sound of it hit her like a punch to the chest. The cadence, the softness, the slight rasp at the end of the syllables. She knew that voice. Mom? Her voice cracked, barely audible. Yes, sweetheart. She almost dropped the phone. It wasn't possible. Her mother had died years ago. She'd seen the body, attended the funeral, felt the cold kiss of finality. But the voice in the receiver, it was unmistakable. It was her. But you're dead, Evelyn whispered. A pause. Then, no, not yet. But you need to remember before it's too late. A sharp crack of thunder rattled the cabin. The windows trembled in their frames. Lightning flashed, briefly illuminating the trees outside like skeletal limbs reaching skyward. Evelyn clutched the phone tighter. "Remember what? What are you talking about?" "You have to go to the basement." The line crackled again, and Evelyn swore she could hear something beneath her mother's voice, like water dripping or someone weeping far away. Her knees felt weak. The thought of the basement made her stomach churn. That place had always unsettled her as a child, though she'd never understood why. Until now. "There's something down there," Evelyn said slowly. "Yes," her mother replied. "Something we locked away, but it never left." "What is it?" "Me." The line went dead. Evelyn stood in stunned silence. The phone receiver hung limply in her hand. A gust of wind howled outside. Then bang! The back door slammed shut somewhere in the house. She jumped, heart pounding. Creak. Floorboards groaned from the floor below. Not the usual settling. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. Slow. Something or someone was moving downstairs. She dropped the phone. A hallway felt narrower than she remembered as she descended the stairs. The walls pressed in around her, the wooden planks creaking under her bare feet. Every light she passed flickered. In the kitchen, the refrigerator buzzed louder than it should. The faucet dripped, rhythmically, as if syncing with her heartbeat. Drip, drip, drip. The basement door stood at the end of the hall, slightly ajar. Darkness oozed from the crack like smoke. She paused. Hand hovering over the light switch. It didn't work. Of course it didn't. She grabbed a flashlight from the drawer, clicked it on. The beam cut a narrow path through the gloom. She opened the door slowly. It let out a groan that echoed into the depths. Steps descended into blackness. She took the first one, then another. Each creak was louder than the last. When she reached the bottom, the smell hit her. Damp, musty, like rotting wood and mold-covered secrets. The beam of light danced across stone walls and forgotten furniture. A broken chair, an old trunk, shelves lined with yellowing jars of preserves, and in the corner, covered in a moth-eaten sheet, something large. She approached slowly, flashlight trembling in her hand. She pulled the sheet away. A mirror, old, ornate, the kind you'd see in a Victorian mansion. The frame was silver, tarnished, carved with twisting patterns of vines and serpents. Her reflection looked back at her, only it didn't. She blinked. Her reflection was moving, but she wasn't. It tilted its head, slow and deliberate, and smiled. Evelyn screamed. The sound bounced around the basement like a trapped animal. Then came the voice, not from the phone, from the mirror. "You left me here." Her reflection raised a hand. Its fingers curled slowly, claw-like. I don't understand." The mirror rippled like the surface of water. Her reflection stepped forward, pressing a hand against the glass. "You promised to remember." Evelyn stumbled back, nearly tripping over the old trunk. Her flashlight flickered. The mirror began to vibrate, emitting a low, metallic hum. She turned to run. Thud, thud, thud. Footsteps pounded overhead. Something was coming. The basement door slammed shut, trapping her inside. She banged on the door, screaming, "Let me out!" Then silence. She turned. The mirror was glowing faintly. Then she heard it again, the sound that haunted her dreams. A phone ringing. Ring. Only this time, it was coming from inside the mirror. Chapter 4. The Locked Room. The next thing Evelyn knew, she was back upstairs. She didn't remember running. Didn't remember the basement door flying open. One moment, she was staring into the mirror that had whispered her name. The next, she was gasping for air in the living room, clutching the wall, her heart pounding like a drum in her ears. Outside, the storm had returned. Crack! Boom! Thunder roared as lightning danced through the forest beyond the window. The lake reflected jagged bolts of white, as if trying to warn her. She stumbled toward the kitchen sink, turned on the tap, and splashed cold water over her face. Her reflection in the kitchen window looked pale and distant, half erased by the night beyond. But she noticed something else. In the reflection just behind her, the hallway door was open. It had been locked. That door hadn't opened in decades. It was the one room her mother had always forbidden her to enter. She'd chalked it up to storage or disrepair, never daring to ask. But now it gaped open. Darkness breathed from within. Evelyn turned slowly. The door stood at the end of the hall, partially ajar, the edges swallowed by shadow. The air around it seemed colder, charged with something unseen. Her feet moved before she could stop them. Each step felt heavier, like the house was resisting her. Creak, creak, creak. She reached the door, placed a trembling hand on its surface. The wood was cold, too cold, like it had been buried in ice. She pushed. The door opened without a sound. Inside, dust floated like ash. The room was windowless. The walls were lined with faded floral wallpaper, peeled and curling like burnt skin. An old rocking chair sat in the corner, swaying gently, but there was no breeze. On the far wall hung a series of black and white portraits, all of them of Evelyn's family, her grandparents, her mother, her. But there were more. People she didn't recognize, faces faded or obscured, like the ink had been washed away. And in the center of them all, a large oval portrait of a young girl, eyes blacked out, mouth sewn shut. The longer Evelyn looked at the picture, the more wrong it felt. Her chest tightened. Her vision blurred slightly at the edges. The rocking chair creaked louder. She turned. It was empty, yet still moving. Creak, creak. Suddenly, the door behind her slammed shut. Bang! She screamed and rushed back. Pulling at the knob. Locked. Of course, trapped. The temperature dropped. Her breath clouded before her. Then a whisper, so faint it might have been imagined. Evelyn! She spun around. Nobody, but the voice came again, closer this time. You left me here. Who are you? She cried out. You were supposed to stay. Something rustled in the far corner. She raised her flashlight. A small dresser. Its drawers began opening and slamming shut by themselves. Slam, slam, slam! She screamed, backing into the wall. The wallpaper began to ripple, like something was crawling just beneath it. She could hear it. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Tiny claws or fingers dragging along the inside of the walls. Then a voice, louder now, directly behind her. "Look in the drawer." "No," she whispered. "No, I'm not, comma, bang." The top drawer shot open, slamming against the wall. Something fell out and hit the floor with a dull thud. A doll. Old, cracked, its porcelain face fractured, one eye missing. Its tiny mouth was sewn shut with black thread. Evelyn knelt, trembling, and picked it up. A small note was pinned to its chest. "She remembers. Why don't you?" Suddenly, a gust of icy wind swept through the room. The portraits began to shake, then fall. Crash! One by one, they hit the floor. Glass shattering, frames splintering. The walls screamed. Yes, screamed. A chorus of children's voices, agonized, echoing from within the plaster. "Help us! Don't forget, she's coming back." Evelyn dropped a doll and covered her ears, backing into the corner. The floorboards beneath her vibrated. A low, droning hum filled the air. Then, ring! She opened her eyes. A phone sat on the rocking chair. She hadn't seen it before. The same black rotary phone. Its dial spun on its own. Ring! She approached, each step weighted with dread. She reached for the receiver, hands shaking violently. The moment she touched it, the screaming stopped. The world went still. She lifted the phone. Silence. Then the soft voice returned. "You're almost there." She closed her eyes. "Why are you doing this to me?" "I'm not," the voice said. "You did this to yourself." The line went dead. The door creaked open behind her. She turned slowly. There, standing in the hallway, was the little girl from the portrait. Same dress, same sewn mouth. Only now, her eyes were wide open. And she was smiling. Chapter 5. Echoes of a Forgotten Name. The girl didn't move. She stood in the hallway, barefoot, her white dress soaked as if she'd been dragged from the lake. Her skin was pale as candle wax, her hair slicked to her forehead. The black stitches that once sealed her mouth were gone, but her lips were sealed by something far worse. A smile that didn't belong to a child. It was too wide, too knowing. Evelyn couldn't move. The girl tilted her head, blinking slowly. The smile faded, replaced by a strange sadness. "Who are you?" Evelyn whispered. The girl's mouth opened slightly. No sound, only the soft creak of the hallway floorboards. "Say something." A faint whisper seemed to echo from the walls. "Anna." Evelyn blinked. "What?" "Anna." The name rang through her like a cold bell. Her chest tightened. She didn't know anyone named Anna, or at least, she didn't remember knowing anyone. The little girl stepped back into the shadows. Her figure faded, as if swallowed by the dark itself. Creak, the sound of a door opening somewhere upstairs. Evelyn snapped out of her trance and rushed after the girl, turning down the hallway, heart racing. But when she reached the corner, nothing. Only the empty hall, lit dimly by the storm-filtered light from outside. A cold draft brushed past her. Then she saw it. One of the attic strings was hanging down and swaying. She hadn't opened the attic since arriving. A knot of dread bloomed in her stomach. "Don't be stupid," she whispered to herself. "Don't go up there." But her feet betrayed her again. The wooden ladder groaned as she climbed, flashlight in hand. The attic door yawned open, revealing darkness thick enough to choke. Click. She turned on her flashlight. Dust danced in the beam. Swirling like disturbed spirits, the smell was stronger now. Old paper, mold, something metallic. She stepped inside. Thud. Something moved behind a pile of boxes. "Hello?" Evelyn called. No answer. She moved closer, nudging aside a crumpled box of Christmas decorations. There, nestled under a faded sheet, was a trunk, locked with an iron latch, and scratched into the wood, faint but visible, Anna. Evelyn dropped to her knees, breath shallow. Her fingers trembled as she touched the carved letters. More memories tried to bubble to the surface. A child's voice, laughter, screams. A name whispered under covers. Anna. She didn't remember the key, but the latch looked fragile. She grabbed an old crowbar nearby and pried it open. Snap! The lock broke with a shriek of rusted metal. Inside, a collection of belongings that seemed untouched by time. A child's drawings, stick figures with red crayon eyes. A stuffed bear, one eye missing. A necklace with a nameplate, ANNA. And at the bottom, a journal. She opened it. The handwriting was shaky, childlike. "They say I'm not real, but I am. Evelyn plays with me when Mommy isn't looking. She says she'll always be my best friend. But Mommy says I'm bad. Mommy says Anna is just pretend. But I'm not. I'm not. I'm not." Evelyn's fingers gripped the pages tightly. Evelyn screamed when I showed her the room. She promised not to tell. She promised. "But then they locked me in the dark, and I couldn't breathe, and I screamed and screamed, but no one came. No one came." A drop of water hit the page. Evelyn hadn't realized she was crying. Then a laugh, high-pitched, echoing from the walls. She froze. "You forgot me." The voice came from behind her. She turned slowly. The girl Anna stood in the attic's far corner. Her face was soaked. Her mouth trembled. Her smile was gone. "I waited," she said. "You said you'd come back. But you never did." "I didn't know," Evelyn whispered. "I didn't remember. You left me in the dark. I was a child." Anna's eyes darkened. So was I. Suddenly, the attic bulb flickered and burst. Pop! Darkness. Only the thin beam of Evelyn's flashlight remained. Crash! Boxes toppled. The floorboards shuddered. Anna screamed. It was the scream of a betrayed child and a tormented ghost all at once. A sound so shrill and guttural, it felt like it could shatter bone. Evelyn dropped to her knees, covering her ears. "Stop," she sobbed. And then silence. When she looked up, Anna was gone. But the journal remained open beside her. A final line had appeared. Fresh ink. "Remember the lake." Evelyn stumbled down from the attic, clutching the journal to her chest. Her mind reeled. Anna. Not a ghost, not just a figment. She had been real. A friend. A secret buried by time and trauma. and now she was waking up. Evelyn stopped in the hallway, panting. The air felt tighter now, like the house was holding its breath. Then her phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number. She answered. A new voice. Soft. Male. Familiar. "You're getting close," it said. "Who are you?" Evelyn asked. "You already know." A pause. "Go to the lake. It's time." Click. The line went dead, and from somewhere deep in the walls, ring. Chapter 6. The Photograph That Shouldn't Exist. The sky was still the color of ash when Evelyn awoke, curled tightly on the couch, the journal still clutched to her chest like a lifeline. Her dreams had been frantic, stitched together with flickers of Anna's face, sometimes smiling, sometimes screaming, each image followed by the same wet whisper. Remember the lake. The words followed her into the waking world. The cabin felt different, like something had shifted in the night, like the house had exhaled. She stood slowly, her joints stiff from the cold. Rain tapped gently at the windows, now less of a storm, more of a morning drizzle. ... A fog hung over the lake, thick and impenetrable. The journal sat open on the coffee table. Evelyn flipped through it again, running her fingers over the ink. She kept stopping at the word remember. How many memories had she buried? What else had she forced herself to forget? She wandered into the study. It had been her grandfather's sanctuary, filled with books, antique lamps, and the lingering scent of pipe smoke long since faded. Dust clung to every surface like skin. She pulled open a drawer in the desk. Old files, letters, receipts, then something wrapped in a faded silk handkerchief. She unfolded it carefully. A photograph. Black and white, faded. It was of her family, her mother, her grandparents, herself as a young girl no more than 6. But there was another girl in the photo, standing just beside her, holding Evelyn's hand. Same dress, same curls, same stitched smile. Anna. Evelyn's knees buckled, and she sat hard on the floor. Her breath caught in her throat. This wasn't right. This photograph shouldn't exist. Anna had always been imaginary, a figment. That's what everyone said, what they told her, what she had eventually believed. But here she was, plain as day, hand in hand with Evelyn. Her face was clear, crisp, yet somehow wrong. Like a puzzle piece forced into the wrong place. She flipped the photo over. On the back, in blue ink, was scrawled, Summer 1997. Evelyn and Anna, the lake house. Her hands shook. "Why would they lie to me?" she whispered. Behind her, the wooden floor groaned. She turned quickly. Nothing. But then, scratch, scratch, a soft, deliberate scraping sound from the corner of the room, like nails on wood. Her eyes drifted to the closet. The door slowly creaked open, just an inch. Then another. Darkness inside. She took a step closer, heart pounding. A low, wheezing breath escaped from within. She yanked the door open. Nothing. Only old coats, mothballs, and the scent of mildew. But the photo was gone. She looked around frantically. It had been in her hand. She knew it had. Her pulse thundered. A gust of wind slammed the window behind her. Bang! She screamed, staggering back. Then she saw it. The photo was pinned to the window glass on the outside. How? She unlocked the window and opened it. Fog spilled into the room like smoke, cold and damp. She grabbed the photo, but now it was different. Anna's face had changed. Her eyes were black, her mouth was open in a silent scream, and Evelyn's own face was turned away, as if she was ignoring the girl beside her. The photo twitched in her hand. She dropped it. It fluttered to the floor, landing face up. Now the photograph showed only Evelyn, alone, no Anna, as if she had never been there. A loud knocking came from the front door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Knock, knock, knock. She froze. The knocking came again, harder. Knock, knock, knock. She crept toward the door, each step heavy with dread. Her fingers brushed the doorknob. Don't open it. A voice from behind her. She turned. No one. The knocking stopped. A new sound began. Shuffling, like feet dragging across the porch. And then a photograph slid under the door. She bent down, slowly picked it up. Her blood turned to ice. This one was newer. Color, taken from outside the cabin. The image showed her standing at the upstairs window, looking out. And behind her, in the frame, Anna, eyes wide, smile stitched back in place. Her hands pressed against the glass, as if trying to get out. Evelyn dropped the photo and backed away. Something scraped down the outside wall. Screech! Long and slow. As if nails or claws were being dragged across the wooden siding. She rushed to the fireplace and grabbed the old poker. "Leave me alone!" she shouted. Silence. The wind picked up. The house groaned. Her phone buzzed. She nearly dropped the poker. Unknown number. With trembling fingers she answered. "Evelyn," a voice rasped. Not Anna, not her mother. A man, rough, familiar. "Who are you?" The voice was distorted, watery as if coming from beneath the lake. "She's not the only one you forgot." Another photo slid under the door. Evelyn didn't want to look. She had to. This one was older, torn, burnt around the edges. A boy, about her age, standing with her at the lake's edge. She didn't recognize him. On the back, Thomas, summer 1996. Thomas, her brother. Her throat tightened. She didn't have a brother. She'd never had The scream came from upstairs. High, familiar, her own voice, screaming. Chapter 7. Whispers in the Walls. The scream echoed down the staircase, piercing the silence like a knife slicing through brittle glass. Evelyn froze, the photograph of the unknown boy, Thomas, still clutched in her hand. Her ears rang with the sound of her own voice, somehow crying out from upstairs. But she hadn't screamed, not this time. And yet the echo had the same pitch, the same desperation, the same raw terror she had once felt as a child. She took a shaky step backward, then another. The photograph slipped from her hand, landing silently on the wooden floor. She turned toward the staircase. Every step groaned beneath her weight as she climbed, the shadows stretching like dark hands along the walls. Her breath came in quick, shallow gulps. The air smelled of dust, wet wood, and something foul beneath it, like something old, something rotting. When she reached the top landing, she paused. A breeze brushed past her, cold and unnatural, like breath from an open crypt. Then she heard it. Whispers. So faint at first she thought they might be wind. But wind doesn't speak your name. Evelyn. It came from the walls, behind the plaster, beneath the wallpaper. Dozens of voices, maybe more. Some were crying. Some were giggling. One was humming a lullaby out of tune. And then one whispered, "You were supposed to remember." She backed away. Thump! A dull impact came from behind the wall beside her. Then again. Thump! Thump! Like fists pounding from the inside, begging to be let out. She pressed her palm to the wall. It was warm. And then crack! A hairline fracture snaked across the plaster beneath her hand. The wall moaned, a low and human sound, like something inside it was waking up. Suddenly, the wallpaper near the baseboard bulged outward, as if something were pressing against it from the other side. Evelyn stumbled back, heart hammering. Then, rip! The wallpaper tore open, releasing a cloud of dust and a long, drawn-out sigh. Not air, not gas, but a voice. A woman's voice, whispering something she couldn't understand. A dead language. "Stop it," Evelyn whispered. "Stop." The walls didn't stop. They wept. Pale water seeped through the cracks, staining the plaster like blood through bandages. Her hand shot to her mouth. The smell was unbearable. Salt, metal, decay. Then from the far end of the hallway, a door creaked open. The bathroom. She hadn't touched it. The light inside flickered violently. She stepped closer. The whispering was louder here, urgent, layered. One voice on top of another, some screaming, some chanting. She pushed the door open. The bathroom mirror was fogged, though no one had used the shower. Written in the condensation were 4 words. "He was your brother." She gasped. "Thomas!" Suddenly the sink faucet turned on by itself, spraying dark, muddy water. The bathtub faucet sputtered, then released a stream of black sludge, thick and oozing, slapping against porcelain. Drip, drip, drip. She turned to flee. Slam! The door shut behind her. She was trapped. Whispers surrounded her. No longer behind the walls, they were in the room, swirling around her like wind. She screamed. The mirror began to vibrate, then ripple like liquid glass. Her reflection stepped forward, no longer matching her movements. The reflection opened its mouth, and Thomas's voice came out. "You left me, Evelyn. You forgot me." "I didn't know," she cried. "You watched me drown." "No!" The mirror cracked. Snap, snap, snap. Fractures splintered across its surface, each one releasing a tiny whimper, like cries trapped inside. She grabbed the doorknob. It burned her hand, but she yanked it open and fled into the hallway. The walls pulsed as she passed, like lungs breathing in agony. She didn't stop until she reached the living room. Her chest was heaving. Her skin felt damp, sticky with unseen residue. The whispers followed her, even here. She dropped to her knees, clutching her head. "Make it stop, please!" The radio in the corner, silent for years, crackled to life. "Evelyn." A man's voice, calm, cold. I warned you not to come back." The knobs turned themselves, the volume rising. "You broke the seal. You woke them all." "Who are you?" she screamed. A long pause. Then, "Ask Anna." The radio went dead. The whispers faded. Evelyn knelt there, drenched in silence. Then, a single knock from inside the fireplace. Knock, then another knock. She turned toward it slowly. Ash tumbled out of the hearth. Then, a piece of paper, charred but legible, a drawing. 2 children, 1 boy, 1 girl, holding hands by a lake. The boy had been scribbled over, and written in red crayon, "You promised." Chapter 8. The Family Pact. The drawing Evelyn held trembled in her hands. 2 children by the lake. One was her. The other, obscured by thick black scribbles, had to be Thomas. Her breath hitched as she stared at the crayon letters. You promised. She didn't remember making any promises. But the voices, the whispers, the photograph, and now this, something inside her was beginning to break through. A crack in the dam of her memory. And the flood was coming. She stood up, heart thudding like a war drum. The house had gone still again, as if it were listening, waiting. She walked slowly toward the old bookcase in the study. Her grandfather had always kept the strangest books, journals, ledgers, and dusty volumes with unpronounceable titles. Evelyn knelt and pulled one of the heavier tomes from the bottom shelf. It landed with a thud that made the floorboards groan in response. Inside, yellowed pages, family trees, margins scribbled with notes in her grandfather's cramped hand. Symbols, dates, crossed out names. And then she saw it. A list, handwritten, title, The Pact. Names, dates, ages. Margaret Harrow, age 10. Samuel Harrow, age 7. Thomas Harrow, age 8. Next to each, a red check mark. And a final name at the bottom. Her blood went cold. She flicked to the next page. 1 child for each generation, bound to silence the others. Blood in exchange for protection. The house keeps the debt. The lake seals the secret. She recoiled. "No," she muttered. "No, this can't be real." Creak. The sound came from behind her. She turned sharply. The study door had shut itself. Then, from somewhere deep in the walls, a child's sob, low, desperate, muffled by wood and plaster. She grabbed the book and ran to the hallway. The floor beneath her feet felt uneven, warped, like it was pulsing with something alive. She followed the sound. It led her to the basement door. Again. This time, it stood wide open. The stairwell swallowed light like a throat. But Evelyn didn't hesitate. She descended. Each step was colder than the last. Her breath fogged in the air. The flashlight flickered but held. The basement seemed deeper than before. Wider. The walls had changed. They were lined with symbols. Carved into the wood with shaking hands. Circles, crosses, triangles, interlocked like a maze. Dried red smears stained the corners. She followed the symbols to the far wall, where she found a door, one she'd never seen. It was made of dark wood, bound with iron bands, locked by a rusted padlock. But the key was hanging from a nail beside it, as if waiting for her. Her hand trembled as she inserted the key. Click! The lock dropped. The door creaked open, releasing a gust of freezing air and a moan, as if the earth itself were exhaling pain. Inside, stone walls, candles melted down to puddles, bones, small bones, children's bones. Her stomach turned. And in the center, a wooden altar. On it, photographs of every child from the family tree. Thomas, Margaret, Samuel, even Evelyn herself. All marked with black thread. All but one. Anna. Her photo was torn down the center. The whispers returned. But this time, they were clear. You were supposed to take her place. You broke the pact. The debt is still owed. The house is hungry. A shadow moved across the back wall. Not cast by Evelyn. It grew longer, taller. Eyes opened in the darkness. Pale, soulless, watching. Evelyn backed away. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know what they did. The shadow grew closer. You chose to forget. The candles flickered violently. The bones on the floor began to rattle. A terrible howl rose from deep below the cabin, so loud it made the walls shake and dust pour from the ceiling. Evelyn turned and ran. She didn't stop until she slammed the basement door shut behind her. She collapsed on the floor, breath ragged. She understood now. Her family hadn't just lived here. They had fed this place, with blood, with children, with her brother. And she had been meant to take the final place, to seal the pact. But something had gone wrong. Or someone had intervened. Anna, the girl who wasn't on the list. The girl no one remembered. The girl who had been sacrificed instead. And now she wanted Evelyn to remember it all. To finish what had begun. The phone rang. Ring! She stared at it, then answered. Anna's voice, soft and broken. You took my life. I'll take yours. Click. A mirror beside her cracked. The shadows moved. The house moaned. And from inside the walls, a child screamed. Chapter 9. The Midnight Truth. The phone still echoed in Evelyn's ears, even after she dropped the receiver. Anna's voice had been like frost through her veins, soft but final. A judgment, a curse. Outside, the sky bled into total blackness. Midnight was near, and something was coming. The cabin groaned under its own weight, as if the foundation could feel the pull of the past, clawing to be remembered. Evelyn sat in the center of the living room. Surrounded by evidence, photographs, the old journal, the family ledger. Fragments of memory that no longer whispered, but screamed. Her family had made a deal. Each generation, one child. A life offered in silence to protect the rest. But Anna hadn't been chosen. Anna hadn't even existed officially. She'd been the substitute. And Evelyn, who had been marked TBD, had been allowed to grow up, to forget. Until now. Ring! The landline shrieked again, splitting the silence like a razor across skin. Evelyn didn't move. Ring! She stared at it. Her fingers trembled, but she picked up the receiver. A long pause. Then her own voice, sobbing. A recording. A child's cry. Please, no, I don't want to go. Don't make me go into the lake. Then a man's voice, her grandfather, cold, detached. She has to. The pact is clear. A woman, her mother, we promised Evelyn would be spared. We agreed. She'll remember nothing. Anna will take her place. No one will know. Then a splash, a scream, water churning, a tiny voice gurgling before it was swallowed by silence. Click. Evelyn dropped the phone. Her knees buckled. She fell to the floor, hands over her ears, rocking back and forth. I didn't know, she wept. I didn't know. But she did. Deep down, she had always known. The dreams, the voices. The guilt that clung to her since childhood, like an invisible chain, she crawled toward the fireplace. Above it hung the mirror that had cracked earlier. It was bleeding. Thin lines of red dripped from the fractures in the glass. Not symbolic, not imagined. Real blood. Her reflection blinked, then smiled. It was Anna's smile. Evelyn screamed and hurled a book at the mirror. It shattered into 1,000 glittering shards. From somewhere deep in the house, footsteps, slow, measured, bare feet on wooden floor. Thump, thump, thump. Then the front door creaked open. Evelyn turned. Fog poured in like smoke, and from the mist stepped a small figure. Anna. Her white dress was soaked, dripping onto the floor. Her mouth was no longer stitched shut. Her eyes black, empty pits. You should have drowned with me, she whispered. I was just a child. So was I. Anna lifted her hand. The windows blew open all at once. Crash! The wind howled like a wounded animal. Candles were snuffed out. Shadows moved. A chorus of whispers filled the room. Blood owes blood. Memory owes pain. Truth demands sacrifice. Evelyn backed away, tears streaking her cheeks. I didn't choose this. My family did. Anna's voice was ice. You kept the silence. She raised her other hand. Evelyn's body lifted off the floor, slammed against the wall. Thud. She gasped for air. You let me drown. I didn't remember. Anna's expression shifted. Then remember now. A flash of light filled Evelyn's vision. She was no longer in the living room. She stood at the edge of the lake. A summer evening, frogs chirping, wind in the reeds. Anna stood beside her, holding her hand. They were both children. A shadowy figure their grandfather approached. Another, her mother, stood weeping. Come, Evelyn, her grandfather said. It's just a game. Anna looked at her, eyes wide. You promised, she said. Then hands grabbed Anna and dragged her into the water. Evelyn screamed. Anna thrashed, cried out, begged, and Evelyn turned away. Back in the cabin, present day, Evelyn collapsed to the ground as if her bones had turned to liquid. I saw it, she sobbed. I saw it all. Anna knelt beside her. A smile crept across her face. Good. Now it's your turn. The clock on the wall struck 12. Dong, dong, dong. At the 12th chime, the house groaned. The floorboards buckled. Blood began to seep from the walls. Evelyn tried to crawl away, but Anna's shadow stretched impossibly long, wrapping around her like a noose. And then Evelyn felt herself falling, down, down, into cold, into dark, into water. Her lungs burned. She screamed, but only bubbles escaped. Anna floated above, watching. "You promised." Evelyn's eyes shut. Her eyes snapped open. She lay on the floor of the cabin, gasping for breath. Soaked. Alone. The phone rang once. Ring! Then silence. Chapter 10. Silence after the call. The silence was the first thing Evelyn noticed. Not the kind of silence that comforts or calms, but the kind that listens. A silence with weight. A silence that waits. She sat motionless on the soaked wooden floor of the cabin's living room, her hair plastered to her skin, her body trembling from the chill of the visions or memories she just relived. The clock had stopped ticking. The phone no longer rang. Everything had gone still. The storm outside had vanished. No rain, no wind, no sound. Evelyn slowly stood. Her clothes clung to her like wet paper. Every step creaked beneath her, but even those noises sounded muffled, distant, as if the house itself were now underwater. She looked around. The shattered mirror, the blood-streaked walls, the torn photograph of Anna, the drawings, all of it remained. But Anna was gone. No more whispers, no more footsteps in the attic, no more voices in the walls. Just a bone-deep quiet that pulsed like the moments after a scream. Evelyn made her way into the hallway, where the rotary phone still sat atop the hallway table. She stared at it. Her hand hovered over the receiver. She lifted it slowly. No dial tone, just static. Then even that faded. She set the phone down gently and turned toward the front door. For the first time in what felt like lifetimes, the knob turned easily beneath her hand. The door creaked open. Outside, the world was normal. Dawn had begun to break. Pale blue light stretched over the lake. The mist was gone. Birds chirped in the distance. It all felt too calm, unreal. She stepped onto the porch, the boards groaning softly. No sign of Anna. No shadows in the woods. The air was still cold. But it no longer carried that heavy dread. She breathed in, held it, let it go. And still nothing. No phone call, no voice, no ring. She spent the day cleaning, washing away blood that no longer stained, taping old photographs back together, packing the journal, the family ledger, the broken remnants of the mirror into a box. She didn't know why she did it, only that she needed to. Each creak of the floor beneath her feet still made her flinch. Each time the wind rattled a window, she froze. But slowly, she began to feel her limbs again. Her breath, her heartbeat, and the silence stayed. By nightfall, Evelyn sat on the porch steps, wrapped in a blanket. The stars were out. The moon reflected silver on the lake. Peace, real or not, it was here now. Then, a sound. So soft she wasn't sure she'd heard it. A distant splash. Her body tensed. She turned toward the lake. The surface was still. But she saw it. A ripple. Just one, in the very center. She stood, walked barefoot down the worn path to the water. The sand was damp beneath her toes. She stared into the lake. Nothing. Then, beneath the surface, a face. Pale. Eyes open. Mouth closed. Anna, staring up at her. Then she blinked, and the face was gone. Only her bone reflection remained. And it was smiling. Evelyn stepped back, tripped, fell into the sand. She scrambled up, heart racing. Behind her, from the cabin, ring! She froze. The phone. It hadn't rung in hours. It hadn't needed to. But now, ring! She ran back up the hill, burst through the front door. The hallway was dark again. The phone's shrill cry echoed through the walls. Ring! She approached slowly. The receiver trembled on its base. She picked it up, pressed it to her ear. Silence. Then a breath. Then her own voice. Evelyn isn't here anymore. Click! The line went dead. She dropped the phone. The aisle shifted. Behind her, the mirror reformed, fully intact. Her reflection no longer mirrored her. It stepped forward, smiled, and whispered, "You promised." Evelyn opened her mouth to scream. But no sound came out. Not even a whisper. Just silence.